Project Management Insights, providing project managers with professional development in the interpersonal skills areas of leadership, team building, and communication. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Project Management Insights. Today I want to talk to you about influencing and some ways that you might like to strengthen your influencing skills. First, I guess what I want to do is dive into influencing. I've been sitting thinking about it. What is influencing? And what I've come to notice is that influencing for me is about getting someone to see my perspective, my idea, my way of seeing things, and to even consider it sometimes is influencing, because what we often notice is that people that we work with, people in our project team, people in the broader business environment, sometimes have very structured and very closed ideas about certain things. They have their story about the way something should be. They see things from their own perspective through a particular filter. And in that space, it's not always easy to get them to even consider or see another perspective. And this is where your influencing skills and capabilities come in. So what actually happens for you when you meet one of these people, someone with a very strong perspective or a very strong set of ideas or ideals about the way something needs to be done, or when something needs to be done? Maybe that's what's pretty critical here for you as a project manager. And you have a different view or a different outlook as to what should happen. What happens for you? Do you notice that you get angry? Do you notice that sometimes you already come with a preconceived idea that it's not necessarily going to be possible to get this person to change their perspective or to change their view on the way they see things or the way they want something to be? Do you have that story up front that then means that when you go to talk to this person, have a conversation with the person, what you do is you bring that, your own biased perspective, to that discussion. And I can tell you now that when you do that the person that you're talking to won't see your perspective. And the reason I say that is, from my own experience, what I've come to realize is that when I go into any discussion with a preconceived idea or a preconceived notion, that's what's running the conversation. That's what's running how I interact. It's running the words that I use. It tinges the tone of my voice and how I do actually speak to the person. And it does have an impact, and more often than not a negative impact. And funnily enough, I usually get exactly what I thought I was going to get, and that is inability to get the person to move or to see a different perspective. So perhaps the first thing you can do is learning to influence better is to pay attention and notice what's happening for you in your mind and in your behavior when you are around people that you are wanting to influence and maybe you don't think you can. Now, influencing in itself, as I said earlier, for me is about getting someone else to see my perspective or my point of view. And if I go into this conversation or discussion aggressive and defensive and pretty much with the mandate that I must change their mind, I must get them to see what I want to see, is there a likelihood of that happening? The answer is no, because defensiveness from my part leads to a defensive reaction on the other person's part. And so you need to find a way to be able to drop your defensiveness. And part of that is about looking at what's going on in your mind, what beliefs you have, what thoughts you have before you go into this influencing space or influencing discussion. Now, the next thing to do is to be clear on what it is that you want. And so the way to influence is to be able to have a story and be clear about my aim for the project was to have this particular set of tasks or requirements completed by this date. Now, I've heard that you don't believe that's possible. And what I'm interested in finding out is, what's the problem for you? Why is it that you don't believe that it's possible for us to deliver, us, notice I said us, possible for us to deliver at that particular time? And then be open to listening to the person, because influencing is not a one-way thing. It's a two-way interaction. You are wanting them to see something differently, but in that, the best way to do that is for you to listen, hear the other person out, hear their perspective, try and understand why they are so set or determined that their way is the only way, the right way, the only possibility. And then work through all of the objections, all of the judgments, all of the ideas, all of the views that they have, and calmly and rationally explain how you see things differently. Because in this space, you may just influence them to take a different view, do something differently, approach things differently. But it's only from your calmness and rational space that this will happen. If you get in any way emotional, or you are in any way emotional around these people, you will ultimately be irrational in the way that you approach the person. And from that place, there's no way that you have the ability to influence. It will only end up being an argument. Someone will be defensive, the other person will react even more defensively, and you will be in a no-win situation. The whole aim of influencing is that ability to open the person up to other possibilities so that there may be a win-win situation created. You get a shift to what you want. They don't feel like they've been taken advantage of or that they have given anything up. They come to see that your point of view and your perspective is just as reasonable as where they are or the position that they've seen. And so influencing in your project management role is a key aspect of getting your team to deliver successfully, of having your project control board on side, of engaging with your key stakeholders. There are many, many places and situations in the life of your project that influencing will come into play and be critical to you gaining what it is that you want in order to successfully deliver your project. So maybe consider the ways that you might be able to shift or strengthen your own ability to influence by, as I've said, doing some of these recommendations or making some of the shifts and changes in the ways that I've described here. Because ultimately your success will depend on how well you can lead a team and how much you can influence each and every individual involved in your overall and broader project environment. So good luck with attempting some of these shifts or changes in your influencing, and maybe it's simply the place to start is to notice exactly what's going on for you in your mind, in your actions, in your reactions at the time when you want to influence someone to have a different perspective or a different idea about something that's going on. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Project Management Insights. Join the sign up on the website for the monthly newsletter, although at the moment it hasn't been going out as much because I'm not always certain what content I'm wanting to put into it. Remember that you can subscribe to Project Management Insights on a number of the platforms. And happy project managing for this coming week. And I will speak to you again next week for another episode of Project Management Insights. Thank you for listening to this Project Management Insights podcast. Be sure to visit projectmanagementinsight.com and sign up for our monthly newsletter or to receive updates on upcoming training.